This is Lesson 26, Session 3, Choosing a Unit to Solve a Word Problem. Try It is at the top of page 541 in your books. Heather and Diego measure worms from their class compost bin. Heather measures a 3.5 centimeter worm, and Diego measures a 28 millimeter worm. Which worm is longer? How much longer is the longer worm? 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. Okay, go ahead and try this on your own and then get back to me so we can do it together. All right, one thing that we can do is we can convert the centimeters to millimeters. So this one's already millimeters. We can keep that as is. We're going to change this one here to centimeters. So 3.5 centimeters. There's going to be a larger number of millimeters than centimeters because millimeters are smaller. There are 10 millimeters in every centimeter. So we're going to take 3.5 times 10 to see how many centimeters that is. And times 10, I just move my decimal one place. So 3.5 centimeters is the same as 35 millimeters. And so we see that Heather's worm is 35 millimeters and Diego's worm is 28 millimeters. So that means that Heather's worm is the longer worm. We can do this the other way. We can convert the millimeters to centimeters as well. So if we have 28 millimeters, and we're changing millimeters to centimeters, that means that it's becoming a larger unit. There will be less centimeters than millimeters. So we're going to divide by 10 this time, which means moving our decimal this direction. So that would be 2.8 centimeters. So that shows us the same thing, that Heather's worm measures 3.5 centimeters and Diego's is 2.8 centimeters. So Heather's worm is definitely the longer worm. You can use a picture to help understand the relationship between centimeters and millimeters. So each of these is a centimeter. And then each of these is a millimeter. So we can see that for each centimeter, there's 10 millimeters. You can write equations to convert centimeters to millimeters or millimeters to centimeters. To compare the lengths, the measurements need to be in the same unit. Convert centimeters to millimeters. There are 10 millimeters in each centimeter, so we could take 3.5 centimeters times 10 to get 35 millimeters. To convert millimeters to centimeters, there are 10 millimeters in each centimeter, so we can take 28 divided by 10 to get 2.8 centimeters. Connect It is on the top of page 543 if you can follow along in your books. Number 1. Why do you need to convert one of the units of measure to solve the problem? So you can't compare centimeters and millimeters since they are different units of measure. They need to be the same unit of measure before you can compare them. Number 2, why do you multiply to convert centimeters to millimeters? Millimeters are smaller units of measure, and so you would need more of them. Why do you divide to convert millimeters to centimeters? Centimeters are larger units of measure, so you would have fewer of them. Number 3, who measured the longer worm? How much longer was it? Explain how you know. So we did find out that Heather's worm was the longer worm, and let's use the millimeter difference. If hers was 35 millimeters and Diego's was 28 millimeters, then when we subtract, the difference between those millimeters is 7 millimeters different. Number 4. Look at the problem wording again. Why can you give the answer in millimeters or in centimeters? The problem asks which worm is longer and how much longer. It doesn't ask how many millimeters or centimeters longer the longer worm is. So we can use either unit. Reflect. Look back at your try it strategies that I showed you. Picture it and model it. Which models or strategies do you like best for choosing a unit to convert, and explain? Do you prefer converting millimeters to centimeters, the smaller unit to the larger one? Or do you prefer converting from the larger unit to the smaller unit? Number 6. Steve and Tom each build a box. Who builds a box with a greater volume? How much greater is the volume? Show your work. So go ahead and pause and come up with your solution, and then we'll work through it together. Okay, I'm seeing that Steve's box is measured in feet, while Tom's box is measured in inches. And it doesn't specify which unit that we should convert to, and so we get to choose. I know that when we are finding volume, we multiply the length times the width times the height. And I am looking at these numbers, and 8, 4, and 2 are much easier to multiply than these bigger numbers, 60, 84, and 24. So I'm going to choose to convert my inches to feet because that's going to make smaller numbers that are going to be easier for me to multiply. And I do notice that they were nice to us and they gave us all multiples of 12 for these inches. So I'm going to take 60 divided by 12 because there's 12 inches in a foot. 60 divided by 12 is 5 feet. And then 84 divided by 12 is 7 feet. And 24 divided by 12 is 2 feet. So that's actually going to make my work a little easier now because those are easier numbers to multiply to find the volume. So I'm going to find the volume of Steve's box first. I'm going to multiply 2 times 4, which is 8, and then 8 times 8, which is going to be 64 cubic feet. And now we're going to multiply, let's do 5 times 7. 5 times 7 is 35, and then 35 times 2, let's see, 30 times 2 is 60, and 5 times 2 is 10, so 10 and 30 is 70 cubic feet. So now it's asking, who builds a box with a greater volume? So the greater volume here is going to be Tom's box because 70 is bigger than 64. We're not done yet though. How much greater is the volume? We can take 70 minus 64 to give us 6 cubic feet difference. Number 7, a tree in Kenji's backyard is 6.7 meters tall. A tree in Cho's backyard is 730 centimeters tall. Which tree is taller? How much taller? Show your work. So this time I'm going to choose to convert my meters to centimeters. There are 100 centimeters in a meter. I know because cent means 100, that's my clue. So I'm going to multiply 6.7 times 100 to find the number of centimeters. So when I'm multiplying by 100, I move my decimal 2 places. 1, 2. So that's going to give me 6, 7, and then open spot is 0. That's 670 centimeters. So which tree is taller? I can see that Cho's is 730 and Kenji's is 670. So Cho's is the taller tree. And how much taller is the tree? We can subtract 730 minus 670. 60 centimeters taller. Now, as an extra challenge, if you can convert the other way, if you can convert the centimeters to meters for extra practice, that would be excellent. Number 8, a rectangular coffee table is 1 2/3 yards long and 2 feet wide. Which of the following show the perimeter of the tabletop? If we convert these both to yards, let's see, I'm going to draw my tabletop here. There we go. So we're going to say this is 1 2/3 yards, and there's 3 feet in a yard, so 2 feet is 2/3 of a foot. So if I'm finding the perimeter, this is 1 2/3, this is 1 2/3, this is 2/3, this is also 2/3. And if I add those all together, I have, let's see, 1, 2, and 2, 4, 6, 8/3. So 8/3, 8 divided by 3, 3 goes into 8 2 times, and that's 6, with 2/3 left over. So that is 2 2/3, which is going to equal to 4 2/3. Hopefully you can follow along here. So do I see 4? 4 2/3 is right there. So that one works. So let's see if we can see if another one of these works. So I have 4 2/3. And I'm really curious about this one right here, the 14/3, because they're both in yards. So if I take 3 times 4, which is 12, plus 2 is 14, so that is equal to 14/3. So my suspicions were correct, and D works as well. Okay, let's try something else and see if one of these other ones works. I know that 3 2/3 yards does not work because it can't be 4 2/3 and 3 2/3. So I'm going to just cross this one out. So we have either 14 feet or 7 feet. So I'm going to draw my tabletop again. And this time we're going to convert to feet. So this side is 2 feet. And we just need to convert the 1 2/3 yards to feet. So 1 yard is 3 feet. And 2/3 yards, we already found out that 2/3 yards is 2 feet, because that's 2 out of 3 feet that make a yard. So 3 feet plus 2 more feet is going to equal 5 feet. So that's 5. That means this one's also 5. And if this is 2, this one is also 2. And let's find the perimeter. Here's 5, 10, 12, 14. So it's this one. Okay, your assignment for session 3 is the green pages, pages 545 and 546. And I'll see you back here for session 4.